Wetlands. These ecosystems are crucial to our natural landscapes and are some of the most productive ecosystems of the planet, even comparable to coral reefs and rainforests. They are essential for wildlife for countless reasons. They act as a nursery for small juvenile fish. They are stopover destinations for migrating birds. They provide complex and dynamic relationships amongst many organisms. And over 1/3 of the United States' endangered species live only in wetlands, and nearly half use wetlands at some point in their life. Wetlands are important for us as well, acting as a sponge for floodwaters, protecting urban areas downstream. They absorb excess nutrients, protecting coastal waters from pollution. They improve drinking water quality. They provide recreation and tourism opportunities. And 2/3 of all fish consumed worldwide depend on wetlands at some point of their life. But as vital as these ecosystems are, they are facing many issues. Mainly they are being drained and developed, but those that aren't are facing other threats, including invasive species. One of them being a plant species that is taking over wetlands across the country. So I'm headed to Cheyenne Bottoms, a wetland here in the center of Kansas, to learn more about this invasive. Just 5 miles north of Great Bend, Kansas, sits a natural geological depression, approximately 60 square miles of wetland habitat. Cheyenne Bottoms is the largest marsh in the interior of the United States. The area is considered the most important shorebird migration point in the Western Hemisphere. Approximately 45% of the North American shorebird population stops here during spring migration. Phragmites, an introduced plant species that made its way from Europe theoretically in the 1800s in ballast tanks, has made a presence here. The plant quickly took over the Atlantic coastline and has spread throughout the continent over the 20th century. Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks works very hard to protect this essential wetland.
My name's Jason Wagner. I'm the manager out here at Cheyenne Bottoms. Today we've been out here spraying frag, and we've done almost every day of summer for a long time now. Back in the early 90s or mid 90s, we had a renovation project out here, and we had a lot of different construction companies that specialized in wetland management come in. And it appears that Phragmites was first brought in during that renovation project in the mid 90s. So the plant didn't really move, so they didn't worry about it. Well, little do they know, it really started a disaster here at Cheyenne Bottoms. Invasive Phragmites continues to take over a lot of our wetlands here at Cheyenne Bottoms. What it does, it creates a monoculture that provides no habitat value to the wetland birds that we have. And this is a wetland of international importance. Millions of birds stop off here every year, shorebirds, waterfowl. And if we continue to let Phragmites take over, the productivity of the wetland would drastically diminish, and obviously we wouldn't have the bird activity that we do here today. In the past, historically, we've always used just traditional herbicide application on with ground equipment such as tractors and ATVs, UTV sprayers. Luckily in 2019 we were able to purchase the Marshmaster. And that has greatly improved our ability to control Phragmites during wet periods of time. What we use to spray Phragmites with is a combination of herbicides. It's an aquatic rated glyphosate and aquatic rated imazapyr. Obviously in a wetland situation, that's all we use. That herbicide won't harm any other organisms in the wetland system. So we probably spend $10,000 to $15,000 annually just on the herbicide alone. We're accumulating a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of expense dealing with Phragmites. Phragmites isn't just a problem that's unique here to Cheyenne Bottoms in Kansas. It's spreading throughout most of our wetlands and wet areas throughout Kansas and actually throughout the United States. Traditional mechanical Control methods that people may think of disking or mowing only helps Phragmites. Prescribed fires also is a benefit to Phragmites. It allows it to further take hold. Phragmites is a multi-headed beast. It hits you from so many different angles. It produces a lot of seed every year, and then it also creates the rhizomes, or the runners of the plant, and that every one of the nodes or joints in those runners, it shoots off a new plant. So a new plant, new roots, and then the process repeats itself and it just continues to spread. We got it knocked out, and then all of a sudden you drive through and there's one of the conditions hit right, and there's plants start popping up, and then you start having it spread. So with the Marshmaster, we've been able to get into the wet pools and completely take our better control frag in those wet pools. A little bit of frag is tolerable. We can knock it back and keep it under control. Last year, and every 5 years, we do get some mitigation money from a wind energy company that allows us to spray with the helicopter. So they were able to get in here and spray 774 acres of Phragmites, which really knocked it back. By the end of summer, hopefully it's dead. And what we'll do is we got a roller chopper that goes on the back of that Marshmaster, and we'll chop up that Phragmites, disturb that soil a little bit, and allow some of the other beneficial wetland plants to come in and take its place. It also will open up pools that a variety of wetland birds will utilize. And also, this is a primary destination for a lot of hunters throughout the nation, and by killing out the Phragmites and opening up some of those holes, it also creates some of the hunting habitat. Last year during hunting season and stuff, we had about 7,000 hunters. But we'll have, as far as general visitors, this is a primary destination place for bird watchers. There's bird watchers come here throughout the United States and throughout the world. We'll have upwards of 60 to 70,000 visitors annually out here at Cheyenne Bottoms. We keep allowing Phragmites to spread over. Obviously, we're going to lose the shorebird habitat that we have. Waterfowl use the areas extensive. There'll be times where we'll have 500,000 or more waterfowl present on the property. And during the fall months, after the seed matures, you'll see the blackbirds and a lot of different birds will target those seed heads. How it's spreading across the landscape as well.
The reason that Phragmites is such a successful invasive species is because it sends out these guys. This is what's called a rhizome. Now, rhizomes are kind of a runner. Each plant sends out a runner, just like strawberry plants and just like mint plants. If you've ever gardened, they'll send out runners. And at the node of these rhizomes, they'll start to grow roots. And as they go across the land, they'll put down roots and eventually grow a new baby plant. And then that node will still keep growing. Roots, baby plant. Roots, baby plant. And eventually, you get to an older plant. And as these grow, they will send out more and more rhizomes, taking over the entire area, taking over the entire ecosystem if unchecked. And eventually they keep going and going. All this is from one single Phragmites plant. And keep going and keep going. These can become 10, 20, 30 feet long. And at each node, roots and a new plant. And those new plants send out more rhizomes. More rhizomes mean more plants. That's why when you're spraying, when these guys are out here spraying these wetlands, if they don't get every single node, every single little plant that these things are producing, just one of these can become numerous amounts. They'll send down roots, a new plant, and that plant is going to send out more rhizomes. After a long hot day of spraying frag, or even bird watching or hunting, who wouldn't need an ice cold beer? Luckily, just in Great Bend, down the road, there's Dry Lake Brewing.
So, Lake Barton used to be a man-made lake that supplied the Mohr train station and the train station in Hoyington with water for steam engines. Because it flows downhill towards Hoyington. And when the diesel engine got invented and steam engines went away, they turned that lake into a recreational lake. And so there was a country club, there was menageries of monkeys, people used to put sailboats out there. I mean, it was the place to be. You know, they had a country club, and if you didn't belong to the country club, you really weren't with the who's who of the county. And so we were going through all sorts of names, and finally came up with Dry Lake Brewing. The whole deal is that now it's a dry lake, it's got nature trails, and so kind of our deal was, that's a dry lake now. used to be the place to be, and we want to be the place to be in Barton County now. So Dry Lake Brewing. So Kevin and I were home brewing and met up together at a local homebrew club about 2017, 2018. We kind of started building on each other and decided to build a all-electric brew set in his garage. Kind of amped it up a little bit. You know, originally talked about doing 20-gallon kettles, and then we ended up with 30-gallon kettles. Went through that, much to our wives' dismay, and kept brewing beer, and we're making enough that we had buddies coming over to grab it. But then we got contacted by the chamber that they had an individual who wanted to talk to us, and so we kind of put it off for a while, and then we went ahead and scheduled a meeting and met with the gentleman, and he said whenever he talked about beer in Barton County, our names came up, so he wanted to talk to us. And he asked us why we hadn't opened a brewery yet. And we told him, you know, that kind of stuff costs money, and we really don't have that much money. So he told me, yeah, you know, if we had funding, yeah, we'd open a brewery. He said, all right, well, let's open a brewery. Kevin and I kind of roamed around downtown a little bit, halfway through our minds and halfway physical, going, where the heck do we put this thing? We always knew we wanted to put it downtown. Great Bend's downtown. Has some great little businesses in it, but it's always, you know, Saturday night, 8 o'clock, it was always dead. And so we knew we wanted to bring life back to the downtown. We knew that opening a brewery downtown would do that. Well, not even 24 hours later, we're cruising to work the next day, and Brown Shoe Fit has put brown paper up in the windows and store closing signs the very next day. And so we immediately got a hold of the chamber, said, hey, who do we need to call, who do we need to get in contact with? They got us in here so we could look around. Had no idea it was a 7,000 square foot building. This is one of the largest open spaces, and that's the other thing, it's an open span building. It's one of the largest open span buildings downtown, and had a deal going within a week. Fast forward, Kevin and his wife went in and bought the building before we even had the funding actually secured. So at that point it was kind of like, yeah, we're doing this. And slowly but surely we got our funding put together. Then come about February, our original opening date that we thought we'd have was July 2020. And then February, Kevin quit his job, said, yeah, I'm going to GC the project, we're going to get this thing going, we're going to open by July. And a week later, COVID hits. And so we had a little bit of keeping everybody together and calling back investors and saying, yeah, we're still going forward, we're still doing this. Took a little bit of a hiatus from it just to regather and then hit it back strong again. We ran into a lot of the COVID delays in December, late December, early January, and brewed our first batches in January. And then finally we just set a date of May 6th, made it Facebook official as they say, so there was no turning back. And May 6th we opened the doors and been running like crazy ever since. We on average are doing somewhere between 200 and 300 gallons a weekend of beer. Yeah, I think one of our big things is going to be to crowler up some beers. One of the main hunting lodges just south town, we're buddies with that guy, and I think we shove a couple free crowlers in the fridge. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I'd like to have one of those out of my duck line. It's such a combination of Kevin and I, because I'm the big artsy one. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this, and he's the more fiscally responsible one. And so I'm like, let's do this, and he's like, well, let's do this. And we're like, yeah, right here. Once we knew we were gonna have time, we really took over the construction. So every single cut in the concrete we did. We were digging trenches. We had help from one of our investors, some of his workers on rain days. We sourced all of our contract work that we did use out of Barton County. So the guys did our framing. We put up the sheetrock ourselves. Had another gentleman from Boise come over, helped us get all the sheetrock work done. We put up all the FRP ourselves, built this room ourselves, built the cooler ourselves, tore out 7,000 square feet of carpet, did all the original demo ourselves, got some help getting this bowling alley from the bowling alley in Larned that shut down quite a while ago, and then cut it down in here and hoisted it up. HVAC contractor was local. And the other thing is all of our investors they're all Barton County. There's nobody that's outside of Barton County that's invested in this. So that's another sense of pride for us. Pretty much the building is laid out exactly as we pretty much laid it out on the back of a napkin together and handed it to an architect because we had to have an official drawing. And it's exactly what we drew. When we're open, there's never sun on the patio. You know, first thing in the morning. I guess the sun gets about halfway into the patio, and other than that, it's fine. It's been a heck of a journey.